giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go!
Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We are streaming live on YouTube. And of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. Boom! You see it. Coming up today, we take our first look as we turn the page to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Sunday Night Football, if I'm not mistaken, up in Pittsburgh, Northeast. It's going to be a fun one. Old rivalry, renewed. Wish they played it more than every 4 years, but all good. We're going to take a look at this Cowboys defense against that Pittsburgh offense. We're going to dive deep into what the Steelers do, some of their players, how they do it. Y'all know how we do when it comes to these breakdowns. I think it's one of the best out there that you can find across the interweb. So make sure y'all keep it locked. Plus in the roundup, boy, oh boy. It's never a dull moment. It's never a dull moment. We are going to talk about that kind of that drop that happened this morning regarding a specific player playing a specific position that the Cowboys could be interested in. But I got some ideas and thoughts. Not ideas. I have thoughts on it. And we'll break it down from a contractual standpoint as well. All right? What's good with you, though, Bomb Squad? How we doing this morning?
Bomb Squad!
You ready to turn the page to Pittsburgh? See if we can get this dub, how we can get this dub, and break it on down, because like I said, the Cowboys are at least in the title. The Cowboys are looking to gain momentum. Their defense gain momentum against these Steelers, and I think they can. I absolutely think they can. And the more momentum they get, I think the better they'll play, and we'll be able to play Zimmer style of defense. That's going to be the most important thing. But let's get to this roundup right quick.
It's time! It's time! It's time!
It's time.
It's time.
Time?
It is time for.
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you.
Let me talk to you, Cowboys Nation. So, as we know, yesterday, I believe it was, Davante Adams requested a trade. We got the breaking news. Davante Adams is tired, sick and tired of the Las Vegas Raiders stuff, and he wants up out of there. The Raiders said, oh, well, think about it. We'll take offers. Really? Now, y'all know, immediately, Cowboy fans, we're all going to think, well, could this be a thing? And then you have to roll yourself back in and say, well, this is the Cowboys after all. But per Diana Rossini of The Athletic, who she's done this many of times, and it's really never panned out for the Cowboys. But she's dropped the Cowboys' name in these type of situations many of times. Not saying she's not a respected reporter. She is, but this isn't new. Most high-profile athletes in the NFL are somehow, some way linked to the Cowboys. But she says, quote, the Jets and Cowboys are among the many teams. Funny, the many teams. But you bring up the Jets, New York, Aaron Rodgers, and the Cowboys are among the many teams monitoring the Davante Adams situation. She's slick. Both have checked in with the Raiders. I'm told at this point the Vegas is in no rush to make a move until a team reaches their asking price, but Adams wants out ASAP. Oh, the Cowboys, they reached out?
Well, we don't believe you. You need more people.
I don't believe you. maybe they said, hey, we just checking to make sure Devontae Adams is mental health is okay over there. You know, because we can help him out. We have the resources to. But actually trading for him?
Well, we don't believe you. You need more people.
I don't believe you. With that said, though, let's entertain. Let's have some fun, shall we? Let's entertain what trading for a Devontae Adams could look like. The first thing you got to look at is the contract. Because he's getting paid, right? But when you really look at the devil in the details, it's really not that crazy for a team to rent him. So this is per Bleacher Report. Adams is in the third year of a 5-year, $140 million contract. He's due $36 million in 25 and 2026, right? But the final 2 years of his deal are non-guaranteed. Well, that's interesting. Meaning, finding a deal for him could be a bit easier in regards to a trade. It also means if a team wants to rent him, they realistically could do that for 2024. If they have no intentions on signing him to a long-term deal. Now, what they could do, and I'm saying they because I don't think it's the Cowboys, but we can include the Cowboys up in this. You rent Devontae Adams, and then you trade or designate him a June 1st cut. If they were to do that, let's say the Raiders were to keep him. If they were to do that, the Raiders would save $36 million on the cap next year and have a $15 million dead cap to spread out over 2 years. That's nothing. The dead cap, that's nothing. You save a bunch of money. So realistically, it's a possibility next year for a team. I'd imagine if they made a trade, there'd probably be some funny money with that. Maybe that moved around a bit. We've seen before where teams would take on more money of a certain player and opposing team takes on less than that, et cetera, et cetera. So I'd imagine some funny money would be involved. But it is not out the realm of possibility for a team to rent him and then move on the next year if they're not looking to sign him long term. Now, they made it public that they want a 2, which means they're not getting a 2. They'll probably get a 3 and maybe some more. But it sounds like he's getting moved. The Raiders are open to it. They're moving towards a split. I highly doubt it's going to be for a 2. And the contract situation isn't as bad as it may be seen before actually looking into it. I thought it was worse than that until I actually looked into it. Now, for the Cowboys. Listen, if we were a team that was all in, if we were an aggressive team, yeah, I mean, I'd entertain this realistically, right? So any team that is truly all in, any team that is really aggressive in renting guys like this, it makes a ton of sense. But Dallas renting renting Devontae Adams for a 3rd round pick, you know they love them picks, man. I don't see it. So I don't see them renting him for a 2nd or 3rd round pick, and I don't see them signing him to a long-term deal. Now, if for some reason the Raiders were to take some 5th and 6th round pick or something, then hey, you're probably talking about the Cowboys' range there. I don't think the Cowboys are really interested in moving anything higher than that. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles in Dallas. So for the Cowboys, I don't see it. For any other team that is aggressive in that manner and has Super Bowl aspirations, this makes a ton of sense to bring him in for 1 year. A ton of sense. I mean, the Chiefs are an aggressive organization. They need a wide receiver. Makes a ton of sense. Now, will the Raiders trade him to the Chiefs in division? I don't know about all that. I don't know if they're going to help a division foe, and they hate each other. Maybe they'll give him a division tax. Obviously, the Jets could want him. We're hearing Commanders. We're hearing Lions. There was a lot of teams that will be interested in Devontae Adams' services. Maybe the Cowboys could be one, but not for what they're looking for. Not for even probably the price tag. The renting price tag is probably too much for Stephen Jones. For me, I'm I don't care. If I'm renting him, I really don't care. You got the money to do it. You can ask them to take on certain monies. It won't cost you some ridiculous amount. But we're talking about the Cowboys, man.
Well, we don't believe you. You need more people.
Don't see it. Obviously, would love to be wrong, but don't see it. On to real Cowboys news. DeMarcus Lawrence has hit IR as expected. And on the show, we broke that KJ Henry was the defensive end that was signed. And I was watching a little bit as we were going through it on the show. But I said, you know what? Let me be fair. Let me stop watching now. The show's over. I'll go dig up and watch and see what you get into KJ Henry. Now, he was signed to a 2-year deal. I thought that was interesting. He's a young player, 2023 5th-round pick. After the Washington football people shook up their staff, they decided to move on from a KJ Henry. He was cut after one season, got picked up by the Bengals on their practice squad, and then the Cowboys poached him from their practice squad, so he is on the team for at least 3 games. As a player, more of a motor guy to me. I don't think he'll provide much pop in the pass rush game. Much more of a try hard. He does have a high motor, runs hot. He's an energy guy, right? Wouldn't say he's a Marshawn Kneeland D-Law type of run defender, but again, he's sound. I think he's a sound player, very very sound young player that has history with Jeff Skanina. Jeff Skanina, Cowboys Nation, is the D-line coach for the Cowboys, who was the D-line coach for the Washington football people. So he has a history with them. I'm pretty sure that's one of the main reasons why he was signed. He had a history with them. I mean, if you go look at what the Cowboys do, they tend to sign those guys. Linval Joseph, history with, and this is not out of the ordinary, but Linval Joseph, history with Zimmer. Lawson, history with Gunther. The Tony kid in Washington had a history with the D-line coach. This kid here, KJ Henry, a history with Jeff Skanina. So I would have preferred to look at a more experienced pass rusher out there on the market, proven guy. I know the name I brought up was Yannick Ngakoue, but the way the Cowboys move, they're just not comfortable going outside of their box. And this really dates back for years. This isn't just a Mike Zimmer thing. I mean, even under Dan Quinn, they majority got guys that, hey, he's familiar with this scheme, or but KJ Henry fits that mode of what has been happening here. I mean, we saw with Anthony Barr and the former linebacker coach, bring him in, Eric Kendricks, Mike Zimmer, right? These guys have a history with the coaches here. I don't think he's a move the needle guy. I think he's going to be part of the rotation. When I say this, I'm saying this respectfully. I do think he's just another guy because you actually needed another guy, right? You lost 2 defensive ends. So you have to replace that, which begs the question, are they done? Are they done? Maybe they look at, okay, Micah will be back sooner than later. I personally think he'll be out until post-bye. So I think another body makes sense. I don't think Tyrus Wheat should be the guy getting a bunch more tick. Carl Lawson will be. So you look in that room, you got Lawson and Henry will probably back up Golston and Kneeland. Not the most inspiring room. No. But I'd like to add somebody else there. At least another juice guy. I keep telling you guys about that because the Cowboys aren't getting home in general. But now they lose their best guy that dictates where protection goes, that gives you that extra oomph as a juice pass rusher. So they don't have that anymore. Henry's not that guy. Lawson is probably the only guy that you have that you can qualify as that. I wouldn't be as confident calling him a juice guy. He doesn't rush that manner anymore, but he gives you the most pop that you have now. So I wonder if the Cowboys are done or not. We'll see. But there you have it, Cowboys Nation. That is the roundup. The Davante Adams news is the most interesting news because he'll get traded. I believe that. Surely believe he will be traded. I don't have a hard time. Y'all tell me, scale of 1 to 10, your confidence level in the Devontae Adams Cowboys trade. For me, I give it a 3. I give it a 3. Had they not had CD Lamb, maybe they'd feel more desperate, but he's also still 32 years old. So I don't think they're looking to sign him long term. Had this front office, if this was an aggressive front office, if this was a front office that was truly looking to push chips to the middle of the table in the offseason, this move would make sense. Even if you get a Devontae Adams, there's still other issues with your team that you neglected in the offseason that are coming back to bite you in the ass now, that may bite you in the ass come postseason. Negative 100. That means 3 might be too high. A 1, negative 1,000. 0, yeah. 5.5, that's 8. Lemitra, what you know we don't know? That's a for sure thing. That's a for sure right on. 8. Shoot, if you know something, hit my DM. Negative a million's crazy. Y'all wild, bro. 3's way too. Okay, y'all might be right. I'm just trying to look. Maybe they picked up the phone and just wanted to see how he was doing. 3 might be too high. Better chance of winning the Super Bowl. Blake, we feel like we far away from that. CD Devontae Cook says Lemitra. So Lemitra, let me rephrase the question. Realistically, not how bad do you want him? You want him on a scale of 8. Realistically, you think the Cowboys? Give me a 1 to 10. You're realistically, you think the Cowboys will trade for him? 7? What do y'all know that I don't know? This is crazy. Professor O said, I don't want to trade for Adams with Shoddy and McCarthy calling curls and hitches. So I thought about that, right, Professor O? Again, I'll entertain it just for the sake of conversation. But then there's also the thought that he played in this scheme. And he is a different type of player. So, and he has obviously a history and he's familiar, and coach is familiar with Devontae Adams, and he's calling plays now. This ain't Kellen Moore calling it. So I do wonder if you would see Adams do different things than these guys, if that were to happen. Andrew said 9.6 with my lying ass. The answer is 0, says MDD. Yeah, I don't foresee this happening at all. But it's a fun conversation. And boy, I would love if it were to, we are having an emergency podcast if that happens. All right, let's before we turn the page though, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsors, Specs, because I might need to roll down the Specs if we get that. Breaking news, the Cowboys have traded for Devontae Adams. Well, I need a drink, a celebratory drink. And I don't even need to go down to Specs. I can download the app and they will deliver it right to the crib. We might have the drink on air during the emergency podcast. Or you can go check out one of the stores. Stores are really cool in the flow of it. It's a welcoming place, clean place. It's not kind of like your, no offense to, just straight up beer distributors, but it's a nice store too. All of them. So go check them out, man. Or download the app where you can get it delivered to you. Or you can become a part of the Key Club Members Club, where you can get discounts, in-store events, birthday gifts, exclusive VIP events, and access limited to release products, and much, much more. That's Specs. Cheers to you. Cheers to savings. Let's turn the page here and talk about this Steelers offense. Did a deep dive yesterday, as we usually do, in regards to the opposing team the Cowboys are going to play. And there's always something interesting you can take away from all these teams, no matter how bland it may look or what have you. And this doesn't go the other way with the Steelers. It's the same way. The interesting thing is they brought in Arthur Smith, who is their offensive coordinator. I personally don't think Arthur Smith is all that great. at all. But one thing Arthur Smith is going to do and what he's known for is he's going to run that ball. Through hell or high water, he's going to run that ball. He got his momentum as a coach on the back of Derrick Henry in Tennessee. That parlayed him to a head coaching job in Atlanta. And he didn't do great there. But he ran the ball. And he'll do some cool things in the run game. I would say this. He did it in Atlanta, and you see some decent things in Pittsburgh. I honestly would prefer his run scheme. It will be a welcome sight here in Dallas. I'd prefer it, 100%. But it feels like that's all he has as a play caller, designer, whatever it is. He just cares about how the run game goes. And so far in Pittsburgh, they've ran the ball the most, first in total rush attempts, but they have not been good at doing it. They are not efficient. They're 25th in yards per attempt. And what they're going to do, because they run the ball so much, they don't care how good they are. They're going to lean on the play action pass game very heavily into it. The Steelers utilize play action at the second highest rate in the NFL, 37%. But here's the kicker. They have the second lowest yards per attempt on play action passes at 3.8. Usually you're trying to hit shots down the field on these play action situations. And per NFL Pro, that's because Fields' air yards per attempt on play action is the lowest in the NFL at 1.4 yards downfield. I saw that and I said, huh? Interestingly enough, though, when they don't use play action, his yards per attempt jump 5 full yards up to 5.8 or 8.5, it says here, but it jumps way up. So I went and looked at the Colts game to see how the Colts played the play action. They played it really well. And I can understand why Fields has the lowest yards per attempt out of play action. Just going to dump it off. There's not a whole lot of elaborate concepts behind it. From time to time, you will see Coach Arthur Smith use the mobility of a Justin Fields to create something downfield, but there's not a whole lot going on behind that. Pat Freiermuth isn't getting downfield. George Pickens is their guy. In fact, the best play that they had out of the play action against the Colts was a screen pass. And Najee Harris is an interesting dude. Like, he's sneaky in the open field, but he got an open field, made some guys miss. 32-yard screen pass, good play right there. But when it comes to them out of the play action, I feel like the Cowboys will be fine. I don't really see them biting too hard to where you're opening up these deep shots. And for Justin Fields, you want him to try to work that intermediate level of the defense. You want him to make those throws in those windows that the Cowboys are going to present. They just got to cover a little bit better than they did in that intermediate level last week. But Justin Fields, let's talk about him for a second. Quarterback who's largely took care of the ball this year. Only one turnover-worthy play. But again, that goes back to them being conservative. I think he's, just based off of what I'm watching, they're a very conservative offense. He's not throwing the ball downfield. He's 29th in the league in average depth per target, so that means he's not getting it past 7 yards. It's lower than 7 yards when he makes an attempt. So everything is kind of in front of him until it's not. And what I mean by until it's not is I don't believe that Fields is a rhythm passer. Rhythm passer, Dak Prescott. That's a rhythm type passer. Fields is a guy that if you get him off his first read, very jittery, very antsy, he's already thinking how the hell to get up out of here. So you want him to kind of play in structure. But he is a creator. So if you give him that ability to create, he'll make you pay, right? Like, he'll create that second window. And when he creates that second window and you get downfield, he's actually been pretty efficient at doing it this year. He's third in the NFL in completion percentage of 20 plus yards downfield. Now, he doesn't have a whole lot of at-bats. I believe only 9 of them, but he's been efficient. And like I said, it's the way that they can do it. They can utilize his legs within the structure of the play like you saw in that first one? Or is Justin Fields creating a second window with his mobility? So you've got to be prepared to cover twice as a DB. And as a pass rush, you have to be prepared to kind of do that muddle rush that you have to rush with more responsibility. Can't really have that reckless abandon type situation. Here's Coach Mike Zimmer on Justin Fields and doing those things, staying in their P's and Q's, and some of the other things they need to do.
Yeah, I mean, they're all different, but Justin's always been a guy that can move around in the pocket. I think he's playing a lot better than he has. He's throwing the ball well. I think he was like 23 of 34 last week, something like that. I think he's doing a good job of taking care of the football as well. But when we have to be diligent in our pass rush lanes, and when we get him in those situations, we got to do a good job on the quarterback runs, obviously. So we did a much better job the other night against Daniel Jones when he was running some of the quarterback zone reads. So we're going to have to make sure that we're on our P's and Q's this week.
Yeah, going to have to make sure they're on their P's and Q's. Not because Justin Fields is a prolific passer, but he's a creator is what I would call him. And the Cowboys have played Justin Fields before it was at home against the Bears, and he created in that game, right? He made some plays downfield. Darnell Mooney, I remember, was one, and using his legs. Excuse me. I think they rushed for a whole lot of yards on the backs of his legs and a couple of the running backs. In this game, we'll get to the rushing in a minute. They will use Justin Fields' legs on the ground as well. But sticking to the air, the Cowboys haven't been, I know it's going to sound crazy because we'll think about that Saints play, but they haven't been awful in defending 20-plus air yard throws this year. They've faced the fifth most attempts, and the big play, the one touchdown that we all are aware of, is the Rashid Shaheed play deep downfield. Other than that, though, very low yards per game, not even just per target, on teams targeting 20-plus air yards. Now, you would think, well, that's because we play a lot of too high, but they haven't really been able to do that a lot because they had to make up for defending the run sandwiched between those victories. But if you look at week 1, you look at week 3, they were able to play a little bit more of that shell coverage. And I don't expect teams to really have much success on 20-yard throws downfield if the Cowboys are able to play within the structure of their scheme. Now, as you can see here, their fourth in pressure percentage. And then when you see that, I automatically think about Micah, because not a lot of players on that D line are getting pressure in general. Teams have, I think, the third most time to throw when they are targeting downfield. So a lot of that is either max protection or play action, boots, get out the pocket. So you're looking for a guy that can get to the cube fast. Well, you lost that guy. So how do you replace that? I said this the other day. I feel like it's going to have to come with strategic packages, blitz packages, turning up the heat. I don't really think you have a guy that's going to give you that kind of constant or consistent pressure in that manner. But you're going up against the Steelers' offensive line that I don't think is all that great. They've invested in it, though. I like Zach Frazier, the center that was drafted. I like Broderick Jones, the right tackle. They're dealing with some injuries. They had another first-round pick, right? Didn't they have 2 first-round picks or a second-round pick? I want to say Troy Fatts is also out. And they have a Dan Moore Jr. replacing him at left guard or left tackle. So they are not whole on the offensive line. But let me say this. I'm no longer, I don't care how bad an offensive line looks. I don't care really how they performed the week before, especially when you've lost Micah and D-Law. I'm no longer just going to poo-poo on somebody's offensive line. The Baltimore Ravens had an atrocious offensive line going into that game. They bullied you. The Pittsburgh Steelers are going to run the ball. They may not be good at it. They're going to try to run the ball. Arthur Smith, they spoke with him in the offseason, and he said, our brand is going to be physical on the line of scrimmage. They may not be good at it against another team, But the Cowboys went up against some soft offensive lines before or previously, and they got bullied at the line of scrimmage. So they need to bring their hard hats to this game, carry that momentum over from the New York Giants game into this game, and be ready to compete. Point blank, period. Now, again, we're mostly talking about the passing game, pass rush wise. I don't expect the Cowboys to try to just get upfield and get after Justin Fields. I feel like they're going to be more muddled rush, containment style. But you got to cover on that back end, right? And when he drops back, talking about Justin Fields, he's looking for George Pickens. A little similar to how the Giants game, when you study them, it was, so it's Malik Neighbors, and then Wan'Dale Robinson. This one is George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth. He leads their team in targets with 29. And at receiver, the second most targets for a receiver after that is 10. Targets, not even receptions. The receptions, it's like 7. So he's looking for Pickens when he gets out of there. Pickens, guy, Professor O, going up against your boy. Loved him coming out. A high energy, above the rim player. If he catches it in stride, he can scoot up out of there. We've seen him do that throughout his career. They've been playing him in the slot a little bit more. I don't know if that's a Arthur Smith thing, but he's been in the slot more than any point in his career, just young career, that is. And normally with a team like this where their pass game is not that great, you're not, with all due respect to George Pickens, you're not dealing with a Randy Moss on the other side. I wouldn't think about traveling. But hear me out. I love the Diggs and George Pickens matchup, just for competitive reasons, but also for the Cowboys. But in obvious pass situations, I would travel Trayvon Diggs on George Pickens. Again, not because I'm going up against Calvin Johnson or anything like that. With all due respect. But it's because they're looking for George Pickens all the time. If it's an obvious pass situation, on to George Pickens all the time. So I look at it as, well, if you're going to try him 101, 50-50 balls, put your best cover guy on him. Put a guy that matches up with him physically. Put the guy that has the length to deal with him. George isn't, he's not a 4-2 type of blazing down the field. Not saying he doesn't have speed. But, they're not dealing with a twitchy type dude in that manner, a route running type dude in that manner. I love the matchup of George Pickens and Trayvon Diggs. I would 100% on obvious pass situations look to put Diggs on Pickens and shut that down immediately. Because, again, Fields is not a rhythm passer. Fields isn't going to care that Diggs is over there. He's still going to look that way and wait that way. And if nothing's there, create a second window. Hopefully the pressure gets there. You're covering on the back end. Or you have some type of unique look that trips up Justin Fields. But last week, we talked about how the matchup to watch. Get out of here, Zim. The matchup to watch was Neighbors and Diggs when they lined up on each other. And Diggs did well. They targeted him 4 times when Neighbors was on Diggs. 2 receptions, 16 yards, 1 first down. And I think Neighbors was more of a difficult task because of how he plays, right? Very twitchy, moving him around, not allowing him to get jammed. It was tough. Well, Pickens, they're not going to use in that manner. So it's kind of an idea I was thinking about there, is using Diggs to follow George Pickens on obvious passing situations. As for the rest of their guys, Calvin Austin is their second most targeted wide receiver. Small, fast dude. Again, not a whole lot of success this year, but you got to keep your eye on him. He's a guy that can take it to the crib. Already has a 55-yard touchdown against the Chargers, I believe it was. So he's got that speed to do it. Not a big guy. He's more of he's their Turpin. There you go. He is their Convante Turpin. Smaller guy, 5'9"-ish, about $160-something, blazing speed. But the difference is they actually will use him downfield consistently in how they run the routes. I would like to see Turpin do a little bit more of that, but that's a different situation. Then you have Pat Freiermuth, who is the security blanket for Justin Fields. Nothing special about Pat. I think he's just kind of workman-like. I'll tell you what is interesting in watching him. He's actually third in forced missed tackles as a tight end, but I watch him like, how? You know what I mean? Like he's not. This isn't Jake Ferguson. This isn't David Njoku. Man, how? Because he's a big country strong dude that just breaks tackles. That's kind of what it is. But you honestly, you want Fields to just target the hell out of Pat Freiermuth. If that's going to be the game, cool with me. Again, you don't want him creating the second windows, getting downfield. Go to Pat, by all means. Please do. So that's their passing game. I'm not really enamored with it at all. Heavy play action, heavy George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth. Now, this is the Cowboys. Teams like to throw some razzle-dazzle at you. If there was a razzle-dazzle player that they might do on some weird fake reverse, wide receiver pass, it'd be to Tavon Austin. Or just flat out drop back. They seen Rashid Shaheed. Send Tavon Austin down the middle of the field, see if he can split those safeties. He's a bit smaller, so he'd have to really run by him as opposed to some contested catch downfield. But I feel like Arthur Smith would dial it up. I would love for them to pass. They passed the ball 34 times last week. Out of necessity, they got down 17-0. But I would love for them to pass the ball 35 plus times. I'd be shocked if you're not able to corral this passing offense. And if you're not, again, your defense just continues to be a disappointment. Now, in the run game, this is where Arthur Smith shines a little bit with his scheme. I had mentioned it at the top of this. I'd prefer his running scheme with the Cowboys. Is he having success over there? No. But again, I'm looking at how, right? I like how they do it more than how we do. Now, that may be easy to do. Cowboys don't do anything in that regards. But you'll see this is a zone scheme for the most part. But he mixes it up. They'll do some gap stuff. But it's mostly a zone concept. And I told you guys yesterday when talking about Cooper Beebe, what I love about Cooper Beebe was the ability to dirt guys. That's because he knew that's my guy, putting his ass on the dirt. As opposed to what they're being asked to do now. You see Zach Frazier, I think, excelling in this zone scheme. What it does is it gives Najee Harris a multiple way go. There's a play you'll see them run. Probably the Cowboys, you're going to see it a few times, where they'll show zone left. They'll bring big old Washington, that tight end, backside to seal off the defensive end as they let him free. You'll get a combo type block. It's still zone, but you got Zach Frazier kind of peeping the second level. And what that's going to do is take the linebackers flowing one way, hold that middle linebacker or that weak side linebacker, and it gives Zach Frazier time to get upfield, and it gives Najee Harris multiple options. I can stay downhill in the AB gap, or I could take it outside to the C gap. And that's what I love about zone. I'm a huge zone fan. You can mix it up nowadays. They do a whole lot of cool things out of it. They also do this weird, and for my offensive play callers in there, where they'll have tight end lined up in line, and instead of the tight end taking the defensive end head up, they'll have the right tackle shoot out, get the defensive end, and then the tight end will loop underneath, grab that linebacker, again, with action on the other side, making the linebackers hesitate, and then again, giving Najee Harris a two-way go. I could follow the tight end here, or I could head downhill because I'm in that zone look. So I like what they do from a schematic standpoint. They ain't that good, though. Like, they're not that good at doing it. When I say doing it, I mean moving guys out of just sheer power, and then their running backs in regards to Najee Harris. If he's not getting green grass to find, he's getting caught up. I thought the Colts were amazing against this Steelers run defense. Their linebackers played downhill. They filled the gaps in their run fits extremely well. Grover Stewart, Would have loved to have a Grover Stewart. Grover Stewart controlled the line of scrimmage. They controlled the line of scrimmage. Gus Bradley had those boys playing really, really good. Shut down Najee Harris. Najee Harris had his worst outing at 1.5 yards per carry, and everything was just hard, man. And it's like the one thing I did notice, it's not hard to tell when they are going to run. I know they run a whole lot of play action, but this isn't a team they're about middle of the pack in pre-snap motion. Below average in at-snap motion. It's really not about the window dressing part. It's more so about them running solid zone scheme principles and then having a little bit of creativity post-snap in doing so. But they did a fantastic job. Shouts out to the Colts. If our linebackers play that way, they'll shut this down. And I have confidence they will. You know, I know Cowboys without their two best defensive linemen, but this game is going to be more about just being sound. Just being sound. Now, the trick for the Steelers, if they were to decide to use Justin Fields more as a runner in this game. Now, he has the fourth most attempts at quarterback, so he already is being used a lot, but you have to include scrambles. What I mean is in the same manner that, say, the Ravens did. The Ravens right away said, you're going to have to worry about Lamar Jackson's legs. We knew that already. But the Steelers, I feel like Fields is still trying to prove himself as a thrower, and that's fine. But if I were Arthur Smith, if I were the Steelers, we're going to turn this thing back. Justin Fields is going to get at least 10 totes. Maybe 7 of them are deliberate, designed rushes. Because we've seen the Cowboys tend to not figure out how to deal with playing 11 on 11. Again, it's only been one game. Daniel Jones, I told you guys, but the whole Achilles thing, I never really was afraid of Daniel Jones running in that manner. Fields is a different situation. Fields, I want to say, is like the first Steeler quarterback, or I don't know how long it's been, to have 300 yards passing last week and 50-plus rushing yards. So we know he can really kill you with his legs. So if I'm the Steelers, if they want to run just basic, generic run things, I'm confident in the Cowboys being disciplined enough to stay in their run fits and shut this run game down. I'm very confident in that. Even with a suspect defensive line, D-tackle play this season so far, even without D-Law and Micah, I'm confident in that. It's where if they decide to use Fields' legs deliberately and early and often, okay, now are we going to pull down his safety because we saw that's how Zim addressed it? Or are we going to see what we saw last week, which was the Cowboys kind of learn from their mistakes and do some things differently against Daniel Jones? But Daniel Jones wasn't really looking to run a whole lot. So that's the wild card for me. If you're just going to run Najee Harris, I feel like the Cowboys will be fine in that. They'll be sound in that. And that's no disrespect to Najee. I think he's a solid back. Jaylen Warren is their backup back. He's been dealing with an injury. Coach Mike Tomlin said he may play. Cordell Patterson also dealing with an injury. He got hurt in that game. He actually leads them in yards per carry. He may play. This is what Tomlin is saying, but I don't know, man. Jaylen Warren is dealing with, I think, multiple injuries that they label him as week to week. So if he's week to week, that means that Cordell Patterson is your backup, but Cordell Patterson left in the third quarter and did not return with an ankle. So will he play? So if he's not playing, Warren's not playing, it could be a heavy dose of Najee Harris, and they have a guy, Aaron Shamklin, I believe that's how you say his name, which Cowboys fans, you should be familiar with him. He was on the practice squad or the camp roster a couple years ago. If none of those guys can play, he'll get called up. But either way, whether Patterson or Warren, I just don't see them being heavily involved given their injuries. I expect Najee Harris to tote the rock at least 20 times, unless the Cowboys get up big, at least 20 times, touch the ball at least 25 times in this game. And I respect Najee Harris. I don't think he's much of a creator, but he can find green grass. He can run the ball. He knows how to run. So if there's green grass to be had and there's some form of an alley or lane, he'll find it. But again, I like how the Colts played against them. The Colts dialed up some good run blitzes. The linebackers were downhill. They really didn't fear anything behind him. Again, it's Pat Fryer moves. They're not sending him up the seam for 30-yard shots. They're not, George Pickens is, if he's going to go deep, he's deep on the boundary. Austin is maybe the only guy you're really worried about up the seam, but he doesn't really throw those type of balls. So the linebackers pretty much sold out against the run, and it worked. It worked. So there you have it, Cowboys Nation. Kind of my overall thoughts watching the Steelers offense. I'm confident in the Cowboys defense, but again, against this offense, you have to factor in, though, they are playing the Cowboys, and teams like to level up against the Cowboys. This is an unfamiliar opponent, uncommon opponent. Cowboys have issues sometimes with those uncommon opponents. They are coming off a loss, so they're going to look to try to get back right their ship, and they're a well-coached team. Mike Tomlin is a quality coach, disciplined coach. I respect Tomlin a hell of a lot, and he respects this team, specifically the offense. We'll get to that tomorrow. He had a lot of good things to say about the offense, but he said some things about Zim's defense too, how we'll get a lot of looks. It reminds me, when Tomlin broke it down, it's so funny. I listen to some coaches, how they talk about our team. I listened to Mike McCarthy, and it's interesting. The way Tomlin broke it down reminded me of how Bill Belichick does it. They come to the podium. They ask coach about the team. Tomlin and Belichick go 5 minutes, and they cover everything. I don't know how they cover everything. Now, granted, these are professionals. These are probably Hall of Famers. I think Tom's going to Hall of Fame. They recall everything. They know all the players. They know the weaknesses, the pros and cons, and they spill it right there. And it's just like, damn, that's impressive. That's impressive. So I expect this Steelers team to come out and be ready to play. The Cowboys are going to need to match their energy again Sunday night, all right? On the road. Be ready. Just be ready to match that energy. They do that, then you can start putting your talents and pressuring them, because I think the Cowboys are more talented. Maybe not by much, especially with losing Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. But this matchup, I'll take the Cowboys' talent over the Steelers' talent on the offense side of the ball. Just don't get out coached. That's all. Just don't get out coached. I forgot to put the number up if you guys wanted to tap in. 351-999-3787 is the call-in line. Fix my audio. Let's go talk to you guys a little bit. Anything for those who may study other opponents, anything you guys notice about the Steelers in regards to their offense, obviously you can drop it in the chat. We'll talk about it too. But I like this. I like this matchup. I like it a lot. I think the Cowboys should be fine as long as they don't get out schemed, which Arthur Smith's scheme is. Arthur Smith is not a great offensive coordinator to me. I'm sorry. He's just not. I just like how he runs the ball. I like how he runs the ball. Let me make sure I ain't missing no. All right, bet. Let's see. Jonathan G just got up in here. John said we interested in Devontae. Yeah, the beginning of the show, like I said.
Well, we don't believe you. You need more people.
Yeah, okay. Maybe they're interested in Devontae Adams' mental health. Interested in bringing Devontae Adams in here on a rental deal for a third-round pick plus? Yeah, I don't believe that. Swain said, we got a Henry, just not the king. We got the peasant. Got the peasant. Yeah, man. Again, with all respect to the young man, he's a second year player. So clearly they see something worth investing in. They gave him a 2-year deal, so you expect to see him sticking around next year, unless he just looks atrocious in the camp roster, competing to be a depth guy, I'd imagine. But yeah, he's young. I think he brings a lot of energy. Motor guy, hustle guy. I don't think he has a particular set of skills that really excite you, but maybe he's just, one of those bring your lunch pail to work type dudes. And you can never be mad at having that, but expecting him to be anything more than just a guy part of the rotation right now, based off what you see, I think is being disingenuous if you're saying he's going to be a legitimate replacement for the 2 guys that left. I don't think that's happening. They will be part of the rotation now. Sure. Sully says take Pickens out early. He can get frustrated and do too much when he does catch the ball. Damn, that sounds like somebody on our team. Just saying. But no, you're not lying there. And that's exactly why I say I would follow Diggs in obvious passing situations with him. Because look, we'll see what happens with Kalen Carson returning. But even if he does return, Kalen Carson, Amani, whomever, I don't like. I'd rather Diggs on him, right? If I'm the Steelers, oh yeah, I'll take my chances with the Rook or Amani, the practice squad guy, or God forbid Andrew Booth get out the booth again. If they see number 25 out there, mouse in the house. So put Diggs on his ass. And let's see Justin Fields, spam George Pickens then. Might get a catch or 2. Neighbors had 2 catches for 16 yards. But Fields still, I don't know, he has like a 70 completion percent, but again, that's because everything is in front. I wouldn't consider Fields some immaculate, passer and some consistently accurate passer like that, ball placement wise. So you don't put that in the right spot around Diggs. Thank you. I'll take it. Facts, Wayne. Booth, You see Booth running out there and it ain't special teams. Hey, come here. Sit right here. You know how many times I've seen. Hey, where you going? You're getting a little bit too overzealous. Sit right here. I see we got Marco on the horn. What's good, Marco?
What up, Scott? My bad. I had you on mute.
All right, it's all good.
I wanted to call and say, is Edie McCormick really that bad?
I wouldn't say he's really that bad. I don't know what the hell was going on. Maybe they view him as a slot guy, which be a mistake to me. But
I just don't understand how there's that Booth guy. He's embarrassing. We play guys that's embarrassing, man. I can't. It's hard to be a Cowboys fan, bro. Cause I'm ready for Hooker and all of them, even Wilson. Can we not play our other guys? We got all these. We got Bell. Wasn't Bell like a Pro Bowler last year or something like that?
No.
Or what? We got Bell. We got Wanye. We just don't. I think the Cowboys do a better job giving their players an opportunity, man. It's crazy, especially on defense.
I don't think I can criticize Zimmer for that yet. Because Jordan Phillips is gone. He's gone. He sat his ass right down after playing bad. Andrew Booth got benched at halftime, right? And I know all y'all are down on the safety, but they ain't playing as bad as y'all saying, like at all. So they're not going to bench them just yet. They have to look like Phillips or Booth for that to happen.
Well, Scott Wilson on the when we played the Ravens on the touchdown that what's the name threw to number, maybe it was 6 or 8.
It was a good design.
Know who the guy was.
It was a good play, man. Those dudes get paid too. If you go watch the film, Wilson actually, he bit on the responsibility he was supposed to bite on. They knew that. They played to that, and they ran kind of that. I believe it was like a corner post type situation behind it, and that's a good design. And you take advantage of that. It is what it is. I don't think that was some egregious coverage by Wilson. The egregious coverage was the Rashid Shaheed play. That was egregious.
Oh yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, y'all guys might not be out on it.
Trust me.
Go ahead.
If those guys were playing as bad as y'all are prescribing, Mike Zimmer would have been benched them dudes.
I mean,
I get
I'm
it. They're
seeing a
not
lot of
making
missed
plays.
tackles.
He has one missed tackle on the season in regards to Dono. One. And it was the one against the Giants. Now, is he taking bad angles against the Ravens? Yeah, he took a bad angle, but he didn't attempt to tackle. So, trust me, Zimmer will bench their ass if they looking like Andrew Booth and Jordan Phillips. 100%.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even play Booth, period. We saw this in the preseason. That was kind of – I don't even know why you put him out here. He sucked. And why is he on our team, period? But, Sky, I appreciate you. I'm going to listen to the rest of the show, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Look, y'all will get y'all wish if they play bad football. They're not as bad as y'all are saying, but they aren't as good as I would have hoped either. And for me, that's still grounds to say, well, I want to see what Wanye look like. Just me personally. I would like to see what Wanye. Now, Wanye's had some snaps. I mean, he didn't look good in the Saints game in a few of his snaps either. But again, when these guys are playing the run the way they're playing it, I'm not really looking. That's not where I'm looking at to say. Like, I know they have to obviously tackle and things like that. I want to see them make plays through the air. That's just me. When I watch the Mike Zimmer scheme, safeties are making plays through the air. Or he's utilizing one of these guys as kind of a weapon X type. I think Dono could be fantastic at that, but we haven't had a chance to do it. We haven't had a chance to really blitz him like I thought they would blitz him. He was one of the best blitzing safeties. But if we're not going to do that, I'd like to see what Donovan will, or I'd like to see what Wyatt Thomas looks like. Man. Bell's hurt right now. We'll see what's up with Bell. Hopefully he comes back, but I'd like to see it. That's all I'm saying. But I don't know if I can get with the whole, because Dan Quinn felt like it was that situation, or Mike Nolan or whomever. They just don't play XYZ. Well, if you don't play well, Zimmer showed you. I benched Booth. I essentially benched Jordan Phillips. I don't think there's a whole lot of other benching you can do at this moment. I don't think anybody's playing that atrocious to be benched, as opposed to the whole entire unit collectively not being good in those two games. But eventually, you're going to run out of being able to bench dudes. Dudes just got to play better, or you got to help aid them. DQ was making lemonade last year. Yeah, man, I don't like the safety thing, playing linebacker, but I would love for DQ to truly answer the question and say, was that your idea or their idea? That would solve that. Based off his actions, I don't know if that was his idea. Zimmer safeties may be taught and schemed to not take many risks. Yeah, it's not a risk. It's not a risk scheme. He came out flat out and said that. You better not take no risk. You stay disciplined to the ball and turnovers will come. My issue is that they haven't been able to play real Zimmer ball for real outside of week one. And that's why I say, well, if you watch week one, the way the safeties played was fantastic. That's because you got in situations where they play that way. You got Malik Hooker being able to play half field and cover well, and Donovan Wilson playing the other half field, and anything that's coming in his vicinity, he's taking dudes' heads off. He did that to Malik Neighbors. And he could have really took his head off. They probably would have called a penalty, but he came down, boom, Malik Neighbors catches it, bow. Shuts it down right away. That's how you want these guys to play, but you got to put them in that situation. When I say put them in that situation, you can't get ran on that way. If you get ran on, you're not going to be able to play Zimmer ball. You're going to have to bring somebody down, because that's exactly what Zimmer did. That's why we're playing a whole lot of, single high stuff to try to compensate for getting ran on. Tell you this right now. If you don't stop the run, you'll never be able to see the potential of what Zimmer can do from his looks, his scheme, and things like that. It won't matter. So you better either A, force them, right? Stop them. So force them to be one-dimensional. Or B, on offense, put the pressure on them and say, we can't run. We don't have time to run. It's 17-3. It's 24-6. You got to throw the ball. If not, I don't know how you watch the first or the second week and third week of the season and you say, well, we're not gonna do some of those things. I don't know if he screwed up the roster. You want to talk about the roster, you got to go look at the Sun. And y'all know what I'm talking about. Facts, Anton. Can't sit too many is what he says. We'll be calling up boys from Pop Warner. Yeah. I think they've benched I think he's done well in the benching. The way Jordan Phillips played is not just benchable, it's cuttable. It's cuttable. We'll see if the Pine changes his mind after 4 weeks. The way Andrew Booth played, that's benchable. Yeah, get on the bench. 100%. He said, don't miss Dan Quinn at all. So while the Washington football people may be 3-1, their defense is almost as bad, if not worse than ours. I think it is in regards to EPA. But their defense has not been great. Their rush defense has not been great. So good game last week, though. Cowboys had a good game last week. So yeah, I don't miss Dan Quinn. I don't think this is a Dan Quinn situation, man. What's good, DC? Ms. Jagger said bench Hooker too. And bench everybody. I mean, that's the answer. Bench everybody. I don't agree. I don't think that's the answer. But Damone Clark is not benched, but he ain't playing that much. Damone Clark played 5 snaps last week. I think moving forward, it's going to be Kendricks, Overshown, Leofau. Sprinkle in some Damone Clark here and there, but I don't think you're going to see Damone Clark playing 25, 30, 35 plus snaps consistently. But if it was that easy, just bench everybody and you improve, boy, that'd be the answer. Mel said we were talking about the roster in June. I mean, Mel, we were dealing with the cards we dealt, brother. Dealing with the cards we dealt, fam. All right, that's all y'all got today, man. That's all I got for you. Tomorrow we'll be back talking about that Steelers defense. I think that's the more exciting part of their team. All right. They didn't have a great game against the Colts. Prior to that, they've been a stingy defense with some high-end players. Now, they might be without one of their high-end players. But we're going to break it all down and cover it tomorrow. Again, I feel like that's another one of those situations where if you win that side of the ball, it controls the entirety of the game, and you can get out of there with a comfortable dub. With that said,
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button.
I'm pressing that button, getting up out of here. I'm about to go watch more of this Steelers defense. Often talk about heavyweight matchups. That's the one for me. The last time Dak Prescott and Zeke, for that matter, were in Pittsburgh, just glorious game. Hopefully it's the same outcome, but a better process. We out here. Peace. Shit, Washington got 2 all-pro defensive tackles. I don't know about that one. That on the guru. I mean, Micah's Micah, but they got 2 all-pros too, man.